Welcome back to Match Night. The new Concacaf club rankings was released this past week, and look at that. The Vancouver Whitecaps are up to number 2. Their Concacaf Champions Cup final opponents, Cruz Azul, at number 1. From that list, if you go down, look at that. Cavalry just 22 points back of Toronto FC, despite the fact that MLS is weighted as a stronger league. Very interesting stuff right there. So what do we make of these Concacaf rankings? Are the Whitecaps worthy of that second spot? Should they be in the number 1 spot? Wheeler, Wilson, Conway with you. I don't get fired up too often about FIFA rankings, Concacaf rankings. Perhaps you look at them another way, Jordan. How do you feel about this?
I'm with you. I don't get fired up, but I will say it's not too long ago that we saw another ranking and we looked at this Vancouver Whitecaps team. We said, disrespectful.
Power rankings.
And I didn't like that. And now you look at this team, they've deserved this moment, John. I think, obviously, they don't care so much about it. They're just trying to focus on the football. But now the world, at least this region, is seeing this team how we see them.
Tremendous team. I don't care about the rankings. The only ranking I care about is number 1. You need to be the best, and they got an opportunity to be the best later on this month.
So when your team succeeds the way that they have earlier this season, obviously it changes the context of the way other clubs and other scouts look at your team and look at your players. Manny Veth of Transfer Market reported that the Whitecaps are trying to tie down Pedro Vite, who's taken another step in his young career, to a max TAM contract, which would pay the player ballpark $1.7 million. Should the Whitecaps expect these sorts of dealings with other players under current contract with their team? Because Vite, obviously, because he's very young and because of his profile, is going to attract interest. And I'm sure others fit the bill as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a real hard thing for Vancouver to deal with, because with success, every player is going to want to come in and negotiate a new deal. And in a league driven with salary cap, there's going to be some people that aren't going to be happy. They're not going to be happy with the fact that they're not going to get a new deal. There's going to have to be people that are shown the door. The bigger thing as well is who's going to be running the show here with this team? Is this team going to be sold? Are these players, they're able to make these transactions now? Are they going to hold these transactions until they have that sorted out? So it's going to be interesting. You'll see that, now with, a team like the LA Galaxy, who are struggling, but last year winning. In the offseason, they had to depart with some players, critical players, and now you're left kind of picking up the pieces. Same thing kind of happened at Toronto FC when we won. You had to move guys on, and it's unfortunate, but in a salary cap league, these things happen.
The thing is, this team isn't comprised of a bunch of 30-plus-year-old players in the twilight of their career. Virtually all of their players are under the age of 30 who have been featuring across this Concacaf Champions Cup run and, of course, in MLS play as well. What other names are you really curious about what they will do with them? Because I can make a list of 7 or 8 who'll be catching the eye of clubs across the globe.
Yeah, I have a big name that is more about how recent it could be with him moving, just because he's been linked before, and that's Ali Ahmed. The talk about him making a move maybe mid-season, just how the MLS is because you want him to get a full crack, meaning move and he can be at a club for July and start the preseason and actually have a contract with them when they're playing games end of July and August. I think he can move, John. I think this could be the time that he goes. I know he's been linked to the championship. He's been linked to maybe a Prem club as well, Serie A. This could be the time where a player like that actually makes a move this summer.
If you're doing my backroom business dealings, I would move him now. I would capitalize on the fact that he's done well, move him on, because you have surplus there. You have Jaden Nelson just came in, Ryan Gauld, and you have guys that you can fill that void. I'd move him on, pick up a few dollars, and then go from there.
A part of it, too, I don't know how you feel about this, Wheels, but it's if you have ambition and you feel like this has been the moment for a while, it makes sense to do it. Someone like Vite, you're getting rid of all your big dogs. Gauld is not back yet. He's a player that can play 2 spots very well, playing the midfield, but he can also play as a winger and come in. That's a player to re-sign. Make sure he signs on that dotted line and you keep him.
It's complicated because they do have some flexibility, but we also have to remember the club is for sale, which doesn't make things any easier. If they believe there's a window, then they obviously want to keep as many of the bunch as they can.
Yeah.
Seems like the Cuba situation's a little bit more settled If I'm a club looking on, do I make a cheeky play for an Idiaro Campo because he's still very young and he's been playing very well? I look at a Sebastian Berhalter now. Like, he fits a profile that can work in a lot of different setups. What about if you're an established club and you're looking for a shorter-term solution? If you're looking at Brian White compared to what other number 9s can produce elsewhere, do you test the willpower, the desire of Vancouver Whitecaps to keep him rather than cash in on a 29-year-old player? I just think there's a number of complicated situations that Axel Schuster, who's expertly positioned to deal with this, by the way, but just navigating this and trying to push on and win an MLS Cup as well, nothing's going to be easy about this. Let's look at the roster profile of the Vancouver Whitecaps. I mean, they have under 22 initiative slots and some GAM to play with as well. Toronto FC, no GAM. I'm sorry, I think that all these mechanisms, GAM and TAM, are stupid. Like, I'd rather just give the club just more flexibility to sign regular contracts rather than using this GAM or TAM to buy cap space or to trade it. So it becomes a little bit murky and complicated, but it seems like the Whitecaps are still in a really advantageous position here.
Maybe you can explain what GAM and TAM and BAM and all that means to me one day, Conway, when we have a drink, because I don't get it.
I mean, I don't get it either, and I was in it for 10 years. I still have a hard time figuring out how we do everything.
But because of it, it's hard to sustain.
It is. It's just really difficult, but they're in a really good position. They got money to burn, at this point, and they got 2 slots available at their U22 initiative, which I think, smart teams do a really good job with that U22 spot of picking guys that, possibly could come here, make a pit stop, do well, and then move them on to Europe. A lot of guys coming out of South America fit that kind of profile.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, when you bring through a player like Alphonso Davies, that's a generational talent that they kind of moved forward and moved that process forward and made a nice little profit from. But now they have a number of different players, which changes their very own business equation. Ryan Gauld, they've been on this Champions League and MLS run without him for the vast majority of it, him watching from the sidelines. Here's what Jesper Sorensen, the head coach, said just this week, or just yesterday, I should say. He says he can't really give a clear answer on when Ryan Gauld will be back. He hasn't dealt with any type of setbacks, but he's not moving forward as they had hoped. This sounds a little looks a little bit negative if we're going to try to project him to be available to play any part for that June 1st fixture. Like, really, the clock is ticking here. And they're going to be careful with the player because it's not just this Champions Cup final that they're playing, John. They have MLS ambition that they need to navigate as well.
The squad's playing really well. And you don't have to force him back if he's not quite ready yet. Yes, it would be a luxury to have him available for this big game and to win a continental title. But the long-term injury would hurt them more if they really want to make a push in the league and in MLS Cup to get what they've really set out this year to do. This is icing on the cake, I think, for them. The fact that they went on this incredible run and they're getting a chance to play for the championship.
It's interesting you say icing on the cake. There's no question this is the biggest game in club history as well.
Yeah.
So is there an element where you're willing to risk it? Certainly the player, I'm assuming any player wants to play in the biggest competitions that they can play in. They're going to try to push the limits as well. I just wonder how inclined the club may be to reel this process in.
You can't rush him back because I also think, I understand it's the biggest game in club history, but if you look at the grand scale this season, the treble is also there. You can think, it's crazy to think about, but Concacaf Champions Cup, play with the players that have got you to that point, that moment. You're obviously going to miss Berhalter in that match because of suspension, but there's still enough players that can go and compete and win you a cup. Can Champs, still the strongest team in Canada, and then you'll see what you do in November, but a treble is on the horizon for this Vancouver Whitecaps, and I think you need Gauld down the stretch. To rush him back just to re-injure him for 2 months, you'd be kicking yourself to do a situation like that.
If Supporters Shield counts, is that a quad? Does Supporters Shield count for a quad? Because they're on for that as well. Whitecaps back in action on Sunday as they take on LAFC from BC Place. another big game for the Whitecaps in what are really fun times for that club right now. Let's talk Canadian goalkeepers with a former goalkeeper himself. We'll get John Conway's take on the goalkeeping situation and selection headaches potentially for Jesse Marsch as we build towards World Cup 2026. It's Match Night on One Soccer.